Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Vallabha ki Jai, Shri Shri Panchatattva ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Kadakalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Saganathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So are we together with Akrura in going to Vrindavan? At least not physically but mentally. As I mentioned earlier, Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada said, is definitely an actual place, but it is a transcendental place. And therefore, Vrindavan is actually a state of consciousness. If one is Krishna conscious, then one resides in Vrindavan. Wherever one's physical body may be situated, but one is actually living in Vrindavan. And that is the ultimate goal of our life. So we can accompany Akrura in our hearts. As Akrura makes his journey, he's starting to think about the different qualities of Krishna, and now as he's moving on, he's getting more and more eager and enthusiastic to see Krishna. And as he moves closer, that eagerness is just rising and rising. In the Nectar of Devotion, the Sanskrit word for this is called samutkantha. Utkantha means eagerness. Sam refers to complete. So that total eagerness to want to see Krishna. Actually, this kind of eagerness is the price we have to pay to get Krishna. As Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Krishna Bhakti Rasamrita Matihi Kriyate yadi kutopi labhyate tad laulyam mulyam tatra laulyam mulyam api ekalam. That is the only price you have to pay to buy Krishna prema is laulyam, which means greed. Janma koti sukritair na labhyate. Even by performing pious activities for a long time, you cannot attain that Krishna prem. But that Krishna prem requires that eagerness, that complete enthusiasm to want it very, very much. And Akrura is so eager. And he says, yes, tam tu adya nunam. Today I will see him. I will definitely see him. Drakshe mamasan ushasaha sudarshanaha. And I will see Krishna and all my dawns, or all, which is a figurative way of saying that my whole life will now become perfect because I will see him. Him who is the gatim, or the destination of all the great saints and all the great gurus. Trailokya Kantam. Trailokya refers to the three worlds. Kantam means the real beauty. I will be able to see him who is the beauty, the essential beauty of all the worlds. Drishman Mahotsavam. Drishimat means those who have eyes. So I will see him whose beauty and whose form is a festival for everyone who has eyes to see. Meaning that the purpose of the eyes are to see Krishna. Actually, all our senses, they belong to Krishna. Therefore, he is called Rishikesha. The senses are called Rishika in Sanskrit, and Isha means the Lord. So Rishika plus Isha becomes Rishikesha. So the Lord of the senses. So therefore all these senses have to be engaged in his service. So the eyes must be used to see him, ears must be used to hear about him and his holy names, tongue to taste prasadam and to chant his glories and his names, etc. So Drishiman Mahotsavam, Krishna's form is a festival for all those who have eyes to see. A feast for the eyes. And indeed, Akrura says, that very form is the shelter desired by the goddess of fortune. So he's reflecting on Krishna's beauty. Krishna's beauty is one of his most overpowering qualities. Along with his quality of mercy, there are many striking qualities in Krishna. His affectionate nature to his devotees, Bhakta Vatsalya. Yesterday we were talking about Krishna's name being Bhakta Vatsala. The Bhakta Vatsalya is the quality of Krishna being very affectionate to his devotees, like a cow is affectionate to her calf. Similarly, the quality of Krishna's mercy is also very strong, very overpowering. But above everything is the quality of Krishna's beauty. That overpowers and overwhelms everything else. So these are some of the important qualities. And Akrura is reflecting on that. You all know that the meaning of the word Krishna is all attractive. Yes? Not only is his form attractive, but all his qualities are attractive. And he's meditating upon all these qualities, especially the beauty and the mercy of Krishna. And then he thinks, when I reach Vrindavan, what will happen? Then he says, I will alight from the chariot and bow down to the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, the Supreme Personalities of Godhead. Those very same feet are the object of meditation of the great yogis and jnanis and so on. And then I will offer my obeisances to all the cowherd boyfriends and to all the residents of Vrindavan. So this is his firm resolve. As soon as I reach, I'm going to offer my obeisances to these personalities. So we were speaking about obeisances yesterday also. It is very important for us to offer obeisances to the Dham when we first enter. So please remember, the next time you enter the Dham, as soon as you enter, you can offer obeisances with your hands in your mind. But when you alight from your vehicle, then you actually prostrate yourself on the ground and offer obeisances. And then, of course, we go to our temples, we offer obeisances to the deities and to the devotees. So offering of obeisances is something so crucial. It must be done with the heart. It must be done with feeling. Every day in the morning we offer our obeisances to the devotees also, right? Because knowingly, unknowingly we commit offenses to devotees. Isn't it? It happens. So therefore, in the morning we say Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And we offer obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and beg forgiveness. In case I have offended you in any way, please forgive me. So it's not that one should offer obeisances only to the Lord. Akrura says, yes, Krishna and Balaram right. Then to the cowherd boys and to all the residents of Vrindavan. One time, I was in a particular temple, and I like to narrate this. And there was one particular devotee with whom other devotees were a little upset, because this devotee had a quarrelsome nature. So he would quarrel with everybody. So the devotees were saying, can you please speak to him and see, because we don't know how to handle this now. So then I spoke to him, and there was some issue he had with somebody else, and some minor things. We just blow them up, no? And that's the way the material world is. Some small issue, it gets blown up. That's Kali Yuga. What is the definition of Kali Yuga? Age of quarrel. Age of quarrel and hypocrisy. The quarrel is such that there doesn't have to be a reason for a quarrel. It just starts. Or sometimes a very small reason. But the small reason becomes a big thing. And everybody gets involved, and everybody's as if it's some earth-shaking event that has happened. Yes. So anyway, there was some issue. So I started speaking, and then I found it wasn't really a major issue at all. So I said, just offer obeisances to him and apologize, and he will also apologize, and matter is over, finished. Then he said, I only offer obeisances to Krishna and to my Guru. So I said, here is the problem. So what is the problem? Is it the problem that he's offering obeisances to Krishna and his Guru? That's not the problem. What is the problem? He is not offering obeisances to others. He thinks, no, they're not worthy of my respect and my obeisances. So I'll offer obeisances only to my Guru. I said, it's because of this attitude that you're having a problem with everybody else. But this is not a Vaishnava. You say you're offering respect to your Guru, but will your Guru tell you this, that don't offer obeisances to other Vaishnavas? No. A Vaishnava is one who is willing to offer respect to even an ant. So what to speak of another devotee? So a devotee must be prepared to do that. So when we offer obeisances, of course, There are certain rules to follow, and it's a big topic. But generally, one does not offer obeisances to the deities when they are resting, when they are being decorated and bathed, or when they are eating, they're honoring, or rather not on, they're enjoying their bhoga, they're eating their meal. So generally even to devotees, because what happens, what's the logic behind it? You don't want to disturb the Lord when he's sleeping, right? You want to let him sleep peacefully. Everyone goes and offers obeisances, then he has to reciprocate. Of course, Krishna's sleep is not like our sleep, yoga nidra, but that's just an etiquette. So one doesn't do that. Even circumambulation, generally, the pradakshina, the parikrama of the temple or the deities, we generally don't do when the curtains are closed. When the curtains are closed for either the deities are resting, or they're eating, or they're being decorated or bathed. Right? Otherwise, why should the curtain be closed? So generally at that time we don't offer obeisances, or we do parikrama. And of course, when we are offering obeisances, make sure you don't fall asleep when you're offering obeisances. Yeah, I've actually seen one devotee do that. When I was sitting in Vrindavana temple in front of Prabhupada's deity, I sit and chant my rounds there in the morning during japa time. And one devotee came and offered his obeisances, perfect obeisance, full arm stretch, everything. And then he continued to sit there, and I opened my eye, lying there, and then I was thinking, okay, maybe he's a really sincere devotee, my God. He's really got a deep heart of devotion to the Lord, and he's offering so many prayers perhaps to Prabhupada, and maybe, I don't know what else, maybe I wish I could be like him. And then his rounds going on, and he's still lying there, and then finally I looked at, everybody was looking at each other, whoever was sitting in the temple hall, and then we realized that he's actually fallen asleep. Yes? So must have had a late night or something like that. So we have to be cautious about that. And, there are other things also. When you offer obeisances to the deities, you have to chant the mantras or just chant their names, basically glorify them. And when you offer obeisances to devotees, don't touch their feet and grab their feet. Huh? Sometimes in India people do that. They come up to us, they just grab hold of our feet. Do you know a game called Kabaddi? It's like, those of you who are not from India, you may not know this game, but it's becoming popular. There are two teams, right? There's a court that's divided into two parts. And one member from this side is supposed to hold his breath and go into the other side. And he says, Kabaddi, Kabaddi, and the others have to hold his leg and pull him so that he loses his breath. So he shouldn't be able to cross back to the other side, back to his own side. So they all go for the feet, yes? They go and just catch him and pull him back, So you have to be careful how you offer obeisances, and, because generally people think it's a done thing to touch, so they just grab like that. So even obeisances have to be done carefully in the whole spirit. So anyway, there's a lot in Hari Bhakti Vilas on offering of obeisances. We don't have time. There's a whole topic in itself. Namaskar, Mam Namaskuru, yeah? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So anyway, Akrura is now thinking of what he will do when he reaches, and then he'll offer obeisances. And then he's thinking, he's meditating, right? This is Akrura's meditation. Then I will get down from the chariot, offer my obeisances. And when I have offered obeisances to the Lord, what will he do? Then he'll place his lotus hands on my head. And for those who seek shelter of him, that hand removes all fear from material existence. Generally, Lord Vishnu, he has some forms, or they offer their blessings or something. So mudra means a position, right? So there are two kinds of mudras. Sometimes Lakshmi Devi also has certain mudras. Have you seen sometimes they're like this and sometimes they're like that? Have you seen that? So this is called a varada, granting benedictions. Varada mudra, it gives you benediction. This is abhaya mudra. It gives you fearlessness. Be fearless, don't worry. So that lotus hand of Krishna, Akrura is thinking, now he will place on my head and all my fear will disappear. And just like Krishna's lotus feet have so many symbols, similarly Krishna's lotus hands also have that. You know, Lord Vishnu has 4 items that he holds in his 4 hands, isn't it? And 2 of them are for the devotees and 2 of them are for the demons. Which are the 2 that are meant for the devotees? The lotus and the conch shell. Which are the 2 that are meant for the demons? The disc, the chakra, and the mace, the gada. Of course, ultimately all 4 are meant for the deliverance and welfare of whoever is the recipient of those 4. So there's no difference between Krishna's touching of the lotus and the conch shell or Krishna's killing somebody with his chakra. They're all delivered because they're killed by Krishna. And then he's thinking about that lotus hand. See, everything about Krishna is a lotus. Why is the lotus so important? Why are there such frequent references to lotus all over in the Bhagavatam and everywhere in the Vedic literature? Because the lotus has a couple of important characteristics. One is it is very beautiful to look at. Second, it is very soft. So Krishna's lotus hands and lotus feet are also soft. So Mother Yashoda and the gopis, they're always worried when Krishna goes into the forest, the thorns and pebbles will prick the soles of his feet. The third is the purity of the lotus. The lotus is called Pankaja. Have you heard this name? One of the numerous synonyms for lotus is Pankaja. Panka means mud. Ja means that which has taken janma or birth from. So the lotus can emerge in a muddy environment. And then it rises, but it is still clean, it is unaffected by the mud around it. It still remains clean. In the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Padma Patra Ivambhasa, that is, one has to be in this world like a lotus leaf. That is in the water, but it's untouched by the water. Have you ever tried to place some water on a lotus leaf? What happens? Slides off immediately. So similarly, we have to live like that in the world, detached. Troubles may come, the happiness and distress of this world will come, it will go, we carry on. So therefore Krishna's different parts of Krishna's body are compared to lotuses. Lotus eyes, lotus face, lotus mouth, lotus feet, lotus hands, lotus navel. Yes? So these are the different analogies. So, Akrura's thinking, just by offering charity to those lotus hands, Bali Maharaj and Indra attained, Bali Maharaj attained and Purandar attained the status of Indra. Purandar is a name of Indra. You know, Indra is a title, like Prime Minister, King. But even a Prime Minister has a name, right? So Indra's name is Purandara. In this way he's thinking. And then he says, the infallible Lord will not consider me an enemy, even though I've come from an enemy. I am the messenger of an enemy, and he knows what I'm coming for. He knows my heart. So he will not consider me to be an enemy. And then he will cast his smiling, affectionate glance upon me as I remain fixed with joined palms, fallen in obeisance at his lotus feet. Then all my contamination will be dispelled, and I will feel the most intense bliss. Recognizing me as his intimate friend, Krishna will then hold me, embrace me with his arms, sanctifying my body. So this is all the meditation of Akrura, even as he's on the chariot. And then, having been embraced by the Lord, I will humbly stand before him with bowed head and joined palms. And then he will say, "My dear Akrura," and those 3 words will be enough for me to dispel all my grief. He just says very affectionately, "My dear Akrura," and my life has become perfect. So the purpose of my life is fulfilled just by those 3 words. So it is important that the Lord should recognize us. It's not only important that we recognize the Lord. So when we come for darshan to the temple, we come to take darshan of the deities, definitely, and that we should. We see the beauty of the Lord, we purify our senses and our heart, we render devotional service in the temple, etc. But another important reason for us to come to the temple is not only that we see Krishna, but also that Krishna will see us. So Krishna will feel satisfied. My devotee has come. Okay, I'm happy. Krishna likes to see his devotees. Krishna doesn't want to be alone. That is why he manifests as a deity, not to be alone. He manifests as a deity to give his mercy to the devotees. And if nobody comes, he's thinking, what's the matter? I'm standing here playing the flute, waiting. None of my devotees are coming to see me. And when some devotees come to see him, then he feels very happy. I've noted it. Okay. Siddhartha has come now. Okay. I've noted it. Yes. So Krishna recognizes, yes. So we go to be recognized by Krishna in this way. Not as a formality. Okay, I have to put in my attendance, punch my card and come back. No. Also, sometimes what happens is, devotional service is of various kinds. Some kinds of devotional service require the devotee to be on the forefront. He's right in the front of everybody. Everybody notices that person's service, and appreciates it, etc. And there are other services done by some devotees that may not be recognized by devotees because devotees don't know it. Some devotees may be quietly doing some things in the background, and we don't even know. So that is also glorious. So sometimes what happens is that some devotees who may have been doing for a long time some services which are not known to others, they feel a little dismayed. The devotees don't, recognize, etc. But never mind. Of course, devotees should recognize. We should recognize even the smallest service done by any devotee. So Krishna's quality is of gratitude, of gratefulness. He is very grateful for even the smallest service rendered by his devotees. Ishvara svabhava bhaktir na loy aparad. Alpa seva bahumani atma paryanta prasad. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that the nature of the Supreme Lord is that he doesn't take any offense committed by any devotee against his lotus feet. But if a devotee performs even a little bit of service, alpa seva, he considers it very great, bahumani. And Krishna becomes so indebted to that devotee that he is willing even to give himself up to that devotee. Atma paryanta. That means even up to himself, up to his very self, he is willing to give himself up for the devotee. So this is the nature of Krishna. So even if other people are not recognizing us because of the way things are, they're busy somewhere, etc., Krishna is recognizing us. So we should not ever feel disheartened that I'm doing service and no one knows what I'm doing. But Krishna knows. So not to worry about it. At the same time, Just because Krishna knows about it doesn't mean that we should not endeavor to find out who is doing the service that is not being seen. As devotees, we should make that endeavor and try to thank and appreciate the services of those who are doing that. Yes? One time I was in a temple. I don't take names, so it's fine. Yes? And a group of senior lady devotees came to see me. They were a little disturbed. And they said, the young girls, they come now, they're going for distributing books and they do preaching and their scores are announced in the morning and everybody says, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Yes? Everybody appreciates such wonderful service they are doing. And we, for 25 years, we've been making garlands for the deities. We've been doing Rajbhog cooking for the deities, and we've been coming every day doing so many things and nobody says Hari Bol to us. Nobody appreciates, But because these other services are so high profile, they're going out there and distributing books, they're getting some figures, some 20 books distributed, Hari Bol, marathon, so much done. And we are working in the background and no one's even looking at us. Whether it is some wonderful book distribution or whether it is something done in the background, every service should be appreciated. So not that the young girls who are doing book distribution should not be appreciated. Definitely they should be, but that doesn't mean you neglect the other devotees who have been quietly doing services which we think are not so, shall we say, cool. Yes? It's cool to be out there doing preaching, but here just sitting, making garlands, cooking in the background, nobody knows, yes? So no, as devotees, we should recognize other devotees and we should appreciate that. So anyway, Akrura is happy that now Krishna is recognizing him. And he says, now my life's purpose will be fulfilled. Remember, I quoted one Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's statement yesterday. Do you remember? What was that statement? Yes.
Do not try to endeavor to just see Sri Krishna, but act in a way that Sri Krishna would be eager to see you.
Okay, yes. Do not be so eager to see Krishna, but serve Krishna so nicely that Krishna will be eager to see you. So his seeing you means that he's recognizing you. Here is my devotee. Okay, yes. And this devotee is doing such nice service. So the Lord, of course, doesn't discriminate. So he appreciates everybody's service. And then he says, after Krishna, then Balaram will be standing there. And when he sees me standing with folded hands, Balaram will come forward and grasp my folded hands and he'll embrace me and take me into the house. And together the two brothers will honor me with a ritual welcome. They will wash my feet, they will make me sit on the bed, they will give me all sorts of sweet words to hear. And in this way he was meditating on what would happen once he arrived. So because of his meditation, as we mentioned yesterday, the ratha was going here and there, and finally by sunset, his chariot reached Gokul. And as he reached Gokul, what happened? In the cowherd pasture, he saw the footprints of Krishna. He saw the dust of Vrindavana. This was where the cows would go. And in that dust, the footprints of Krishna were there. And there were such marks as the lotus and the barley corn and the elephant goad, etc. And it made the ground look very wonderful, very beautiful. As soon as Akrura saw these footprints, he lost his balance, his mental balance, in great ecstasy. He just stopped the chariot, his hair stood on end, and his eyes filled with tears, and he jumped down from the chariot, and he started rolling in the dust. This is the dust from my master's lotus feet. And he was rolling. So therefore, it is a tradition for devotees when you go to Vrindavan, especially to some places like Ramanreti, that regardless of your prestigious position in the society, whoever you may be, when you go to Ramanreti, you just roll in that dust. Yes? Because this is the dust that is transcendental dust. It is not ordinary dust. And it is a dust which was decorated with Krishna's footprints. So you'll remember to do that next time you go to Vrindavan. You'll not think, oh, if somebody sees me, what will they say? You're lying on the ground, they'll take a picture, post it on Facebook, and then somebody will see it and think, my God, what are you doing? So we should roll in the dust. In Gokul side, Mahavan side, there is nice Ramanreti. There's lots of nice sand and everything, and you can just roll there to your heart's content. So it is quite a scene. Once I went there in a big group of devotees, maybe 200 or whatever, and all 200 were rolling. It was quite a scene. Everyone was rolling in the dust of Vrindavan. One time Srila Prabhupada was asked by a devotee, Prabhupada, how do we understand the dust of Vrindavan to be transcendental? And he said, you hold a bit of dust in your hand and you ask for some fulfillment of some desire. It will be fulfilled. But it won't happen if you do it anywhere else. So if you go to Melbourne, pick up some Melbourne dust and say, please give me pure devotion to Krishna or whatever it is. That's not going to happen. So because that dust is Chinmaya, it is conscious. So yesterday also we were discussing something about the footprints of Krishna in the dust of Vrindavan. So anyway, so Akrura, he gave up all pride, fear and lamentation and absorbed himself in seeing, hearing and describing the things that reminded him of Krishna. Can we see a few of those pictures of the dust of Vrindavan? And by the way, all these pictures don't relate to the topic for today. This one, lowest one, and that one, the two of them. Yeah. This one. Yeah, that right there you can see Akrura seeing the dust, the footprints of Krishna in the dust. Do you see that? The one that is nearest to the Hare Krishna Mahamantra poster. That's Akrura seeing the footprints of Krishna there. The one right at the top is another pastime. That's not related to this pastime. And the lowest one also is another pastime. That is when Krishna leaves the gopis and goes, and the gopis are searching for Krishna. Yes? So you can reflect on that scene as Akrura comes down on the ground. He's quite an aristocratic personality, but doesn't care for his aristocracy. He just goes down and rolls in the dust. And then Akrura saw Krishna and Balaram in the village of Vraja. The culmination, that for which he had been yearning. And now he saw Krishna and Balaram in the distance. And what were they doing? They were going to milk the cows. Krishna wore yellow garments and Balaram wore blue garments. What is Krishna's dhoti called? Pitambar. What is Balaram's dhoti called? Nilambar. Pita means yellow. So he wears a yellow or golden colored dress. Their eyes resembled lotuses that bloom in the season of autumn. And one was dark complexioned and the other was white complexioned. They had fine featured faces, they walked with the gait of young elephants, and they beautified the cow pasture with the impressions of their lotus feet in the dust. And he describes their dresses, their ornaments, their garlands, and they resemble two gold-bedecked mountains one of emerald and the other of silver, as with their effulgence they dispelled the sky's darkness in all directions. Each of these verses can actually be discussed for a long time, but we're just moving through that at a reasonable speed. So then Akrura stopped his chariot and he jumped down from his chariot and quickly fell at the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. Dandavat Rama Krishna Yoho. Dandavat, right? You remember yesterday we used that word? He offered his prostrated obeisances to Krishna and Balaram. And his eyes filled with tears in joy. And his limbs were erupting with ecstasy. He could not speak, he was so blissful. And recognizing Akrura, Krishna drew him close with his hands and embraced him. Krishna, of course, is very pleased with his devotees, is very affectionate. So as Akrura stood up with hands folded, exactly as he had anticipated, Balaram also grasped his folded hands, embraced him, and gently, lovingly escorted him inside the house. And after they were comfortable, they offered him a good seat, bathed his feet, and then they offered him milk with honey, fresh milk from the cows. Yes, not the packaged milk. Fresh milk from the cows, but just like our mother cow dairy milk. Yeah. So, and then he took that milk, and then they massaged his feet again. They gave him a gift of a cow, and they gave him various items to eat. And when he had eaten to his satisfaction, then they offered him aromatic herbs and fragrances and flower garlands. See, this is the way you welcome a guest, you know. Nowadays, the modern society would balk at such an idea. So, but it was quite a big thing. When a guest comes to your place, what do? So anyway, Nanda Maharaj came along and he asked Akrura. So he was very worried. Oh, Akrura, you're here. I'm so happy to see you. How are all of you maintaining yourselves, considering that Kamsa is performing so many atrocities against all of you? Anyway, what is the point in asking even? How can anyone be happy under the tyrannical rule of Kamsa? And then in this way, because they were speaking so nicely, so sensitively, Akrura forgot the whole fatigue of the day. Remember, he had been traveling all day. Yes? So he completely forgot his fatigue. Such are the rules of hospitality in Vedic culture, that even if an enemy comes to your house, you should make him forget that he's an enemy. You should treat him so nicely when he's in your house that there should be no feeling of enmity. The Pandavas and the Kauravas, even at the end of the battle, every day they would fight from sunrise to sunset. And after sunset, they would retire to their tents. No fighting after sunset. Very strict codes of conduct for warfare. And then they would gather. Sometimes they would go to each other's tents and have nice chats and have prasadam together. And they would exchange pleasantries and talk and so on. Next day they were back again, killing. So even when Arjuna went to Duryodhana's tent, he welcomed him. So it's very strange by today's circumstances, but that was the culture. So then Akrura felt completely satisfied. He felt that all his desires in life were completely fulfilled. Now, after having experienced such a warm welcome from the Supreme Lords, two Supreme Lords, and also from Nanda Maharaj and the other Brajabasis. And he appreciates his own fortune. Shukadev Goswami tells King Parikshit, "My dear king, what is unattainable for one who has satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is a shelter of the goddess of fortune?" So even though the devotees of the Lord never want anything from the Lord, but the Lord is so pleased, He gives everything to the devotees. So after the evening meal, then Krishna asked Kamsa about how Kamsa was treating the relatives and friends and what the king was planning to do. Was your trip very comfortable, my dear uncle? May all good fortune be yours. Are our friends and relatives all right? Is Kamsa treating them all right? But what to do? As long as Kamsa remains, who's a disease in our family, there can be, he's a disease who goes by the name of maternal uncle. It's a different name for an uncle. It's called a disease. So why should I even bother asking about the well-being of all our relatives? Because how can they be in a good condition under Kamsa? Just see how much suffering I have caused my offenseless parents. Just because of me, they lost their children and they themselves were imprisoned. But today we have fulfilled our desire to see you. We are very, very happy to see you, they said. So Shukadeva Goswami was continuing, and he said, in response to the Lord's request, Akrura described the whole situation, how Kamsa had called him and how he had said that on the pretext of a bow sacrifice, Akrura should go and invite Krishna and Balaram to come, and then how he would arrange to have them killed by the mad elephant, and also if that failed, then by the powerful wrestlers at the wrestling arena, where some competition would have been arranged. And then he also announced that Kamsa wanted Nanda Maharaj to come and offer tribute to King Kamsa. So Nanda Maharaj sent out an announcement in the whole village that all the cowherd men should bring all their produce. What is their produce? Is basically all the valuable gifts, is the yogurt and the milk and all of that. That is real wealth. There's a proverb in Sanskrit which says, Dhanya Dhanavan, Gavayo Dhanavan. Dhanavan means wealthy. And one who has grains, food, and one who has milk or cows is wealthy. It doesn't say one who has some plastic money in a card or debit card, credit card, or one who has, some electronic money, bank account, some statement. No, the real wealth is in land, food, and cows. So then anyway, Krishna and Balaram heard all of this, and they laughed loudly when they heard that Kamsa had hatched this plot to kill them. They laughed because they found it quite funny. Because they knew, of course, that ultimately Kamsa was only inviting his own death. It seems Kamsa was in a great hurry to die, so that he was embarking on this foolish misadventure of trying to call Krishna and Balaram to Mathura to hasten his own demise. So then Nanda Maharaj told them, okay, all the Brajabasis, you please gather everything, all your produce. And then the gopis, they came. When the gopis heard that Akrura had come from the big city to their little village to take Krishna away, they became extremely distressed. They were very, very pained. Their complexions turned pale. They lost all their luster on their face. They started breathing heavily. And they lost all their composure. They were in great grief. They stopped their sensory activities, Shukadeva Goswami says, and became fixed in meditation upon Krishna. And they lost all their awareness of the external world. Their external consciousness, they lost it. Some other gopis, Shukadeva Goswami says, they fainted. And they were remembering Krishna's words and Krishna's dealings with them. And now at the prospect of Krishna leaving Vrindavan, it was unbearable for them. So they were in great agitation. They were frightened, Shukadev Goswami says, even at the prospect of the slightest separation, even for a moment from Krishna. And now when they saw Akrura coming on a grand chariot to take Krishna and Balaram away, they were afraid that this might be a very long stay. Perhaps they have come to take them away permanently. So they gathered in groups, little groups everywhere, all over Braj, and they started discussing with each other. Oh, what's going to happen now? And what is Akrura going to do? And they of course started saying, they started condemning providence, destiny. Oh, destiny, you have no mercy. You bring together people in a relationship of friendship and love, and then you senselessly separate them before they fulfill their desires. This whimsical play of yours is just like a child's play. You know, children play, suddenly they give up their game, they destroy everything and then go somewhere, play something else, just break it up and just go. Very whimsical in the way they do things. So the gopis are condemning destiny, that you're also like a little child. You have no stability in what you do. Just do one thing now, just something else again. What is the point in bringing people together as friends, having affectionate relationship, and then you suddenly separate them? So having shown us Mukunda's face, framed by dark locks and beautified by his fine cheeks, raised nose and gentle smiles, which eradicate all misery, you are now making that face invisible. This behavior of yours is not at all good. So they are not at all happy with destiny. Oh Providence, although you have come here with the name Akrura, which means not cruel, but actually your name should be Krura, which means cruel, because you're taking away what you once gave us, Krishna. Those eyes with which we have seen, even in one feature of Lord Madhudvisha's form, the perfection of your entire creation. So Krishna's form is the perfection of the entire existence. There is nothing more perfect than Krishna's form. So the gopis are saying, our eyes have had the fortune of seeing that beautiful form, and now you are taking it away from us. The dawn following this night will certainly be auspicious for the women of Mathura. All their hopes will now be fulfilled as the Lord of Vraja enters their city, and they will be able to drink with their eyes the nectar of his face. So they are worried now that Krishna will go to the big city, and the women there are very sophisticated. And here these are all ordinary simple village folk, not so polished and sophisticated. And so thinking, now the good fortune of the Mathuravasis, the residents of Mathura, they will enjoy the association of Krishna. They will be able to drink the nectar of his form with their eyes, and we will be left stranded in misery. And in this way the gopis they condemn destiny and are bemoaning their likely fate. Hard-hearted Krishna has already mounted the chariot, and now the foolish cowherds are hurrying after him in their bullock carts. Even the elders are saying nothing to stop him. Today fate is working against us. Why would the cowherds run in the bullock carts? Because Nanda Maharaj had told the cowherd men, okay, since Kamsa is asking us to come and pay tribute, so we have to carry our goods. So they loaded their goods in their wagons, in their bullock carts, and they were to follow the chariot of Akrura. But of course the chariot has horses, so it will move very swiftly, whereas the bullock carts will go slowly. But still they were all getting ready. So the gopis are looking at the older cowherd men who are getting ready, and they're saying, what foolish people they are. Instead of stopping, they're not even doing anything to stop Krishna from going. They're just simply going, accompanying him. They think it's some nice occasion, some happy occasion. Don't they understand what's going on? That is their complaint. So, okay, we can't rely on these older people, these gopas and gopis, so let us directly approach Madhava and stop him from going. What can our family elders and others do to us? Now that fate is separating us, we are already wretched. We cannot bear to give up his association even for a fraction of a moment. So now the gopis decide to take things in their own hands. Can't depend on anybody else, I got to do it myself now. So they all remember now all the times during the rasa dance and other moments when Krishna bestowed his causeless mercy upon them. And they remember, each gopi probably speaks something of her memories. Then Shukadev Goswami says, being agitated by imminent separation from Krishna, they forgot all shame and loudly cried out, O Govinda, O Damodara, O Madhava. How many of you have heard of a wonderful song called Govinda Damodara Stotra? Yes? And that is composed by Bilva Mangal Thakur. That is beautiful, beautiful song, and each verse is very nice. It talks about Krishna's different pastimes in Braj. And every line ends with the same line here, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So, Bilva Mangal Thakur has based the entire song, which consists of almost 71 verses or something, based on this verse. And then all the other verses, 70 verses, he included this one verse in that also, and the other verses, all of them, end with Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, 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 Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So now they all came, they cried out, Hey Govinda, Hey Madhava, Hey Damodara, you can't go like this. We are going to stop you. And that is how they gather at different points. There you can see the picture there. These three pictures. Yes? Do you see them? Where the gopis are gathering around the chariot. Krishna and Balarama are seated in the chariot, and Akrura is the charioteer. And all the gopis are coming and trying to stop the chariot from moving. And they're blocking the way of the chariot. They're coming in the front also. And they're saying, no, you can't go, you can't go. And with great difficulty somehow, the Brajabasis and Akrura and others managed to get them out of the way. They move ahead. And it is a popular thing in Braja that it is said that when they managed to extricate themselves from that group of gopis surrounding, they went ahead. And the gopis went by another shortcut and they intercepted them at another point. And again, the same story repeated. Again, it would take a long time for them to come out of that group. And again, another group of gopis perhaps would go some other way, and then they would stand there in advance. So that when the chariot would come, they would again surround the chariot. Of course, before Krishna left, the gopis extracted, and the other Brajabasis too, extracted various promises from Krishna that he would return. What time do we go until? Is this correct time? Oh, 11:15, okay. I was just wondering how in the spiritual world time goes so slow, so maybe this is something has happened here. So Krishna made a promise. I will come very soon, I will come very soon. And but of course, so all the Brajabasis ever after that, they never forgot that. So there are some places along the way between Nandagram and Mathura, at some points, there are some small villages which have some interesting names. There is one village called Si. It's called Si. It is a distortion of the original word Shigra. Shigra means quickly, in which Krishna says, I will return Shigra. I will come back very quickly. So he made the promise at that place. So it's called Si. From Shigra it became Si. There's another village, it's called Parsom. Parsom. In which he promised that in the local language, Parsom means day after. So I'll come back day after tomorrow. So he is said to have made that promise at that spot. So that village is called Parsom. So there are many villages like this, all have names connected to all these pastimes. And this is coming down from the beginning, from 5,000 years. These traditions have been continuing. So all along, everywhere they went, so obviously it wasn't a straight road. They didn't go straight from Nandagram there wasn't a highway, or they tried to elude the gopis and others, but everywhere the gopis were very clever, they intercepted them at different points. How many of you have done Govardhan Parikrama? Okay. And as you go around and take the turn, after you have crossed Anayor and other places, at the very turn, what temple do you see? Who can say that? Lota Baba, Punchirika Lota Baba. Lota Baba. It is said there was this Brajabasi, his name was Baba, so he was waiting. So Krishna told him, I'm coming very soon. There are different explanations for the word Lota. One is that Lotna means to return. So because Krishna told him, I will return very soon. So he sat there at that spot looking towards Mathura. Because Krishna went in the direction of Mathura. So he's waiting, when will Krishna come back? So till today he's there. So there's a little temple in his honor there. And Punchri, because that is the tail of Govardhan. Govardhan is shaped like a peacock. And the eyes are Radha Kund and Shama Kund. And there is a neck, etc. So there are different analogies given, the metaphor about the different parts of Govardhan in relation to a peacock. That is, a peacock, what it does, it takes its beak and it puts it on its own belly or its side like that. So Govardhan is something like that. So it's Pochri because it is the tail of Govardhan, the end of Govardhan. And the Lota Baba is still there waiting patiently for Krishna. So Krishna went away like this. With great difficulty, the residents of Vrindavana, they accepted. They didn't accept it, but somehow or the other it happened. This was the most terrible thing that could have happened in their lives. So just imagine the condition of the Brajabasis. Practically every single day, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms this, some of the other Asura would come there, demon would come. And Krishna would kill some before lunch. So without doing that, he wouldn't have, it was an appetizer for him. So, and Shukadev Goswami mentions only the important Asuras, the big Asuras, the noteworthy, significant Asuras. But it would appear from the comments of the Acharyas that there were many other demons also who were killed. But probably Shukadev Goswami has not mentioned the names of all of them. So every single day asuras, and the Brajabasis moved from place to place in order to avert such disasters out of fear for the safety of Krishna. First, they were in Gokul, but Putana came there, Trinavarta came there, Shakatasura came there. So many things happened, so they said, oh, let's move out from here. So they crossed the Yamuna, they went to the place that is today called Vrindavan. And they stayed there for some time. But then there also there were so many demons. There was Vatsasura, Bakasura, Aghasura. Many things happened there. So some years passed like that. Then they decided this is too dangerous. We should go again. So they moved back to Nandagram. Nandagram was the place where Nanda Maharaj's father, Parjanya Maharaj, originally stayed. And it is from Nandagram eventually that Nanda Maharaj had moved to Gokul. And then that is where Krishna came from Mathura. So now it was back full circle. So Nandagram to Gokul, Gokul to Vrindavan, that is Chatikara, and then back again. So in any case, there was constant anxiety in the minds of the Brajabasis for Krishna's safety. Every day something would happen. Can you imagine? And now they had to face the prospect of Krishna leaving. And they all knew there's a good likelihood he's not going to come back. But there was hope. There was always hope. One day he will come back. One day he will come back. And from that day onwards, the Brajabasis were never the same. It was like the life air had left. So they were the only purpose of living, the only reason they could hold the life airs within the body was that they were hoping that Krishna would keep his promise and that he would return that day. So they would wait and wait and wait, watch expectantly until the evening when Krishna didn't come back. Then they would go back morose, dejected, but still hope, maybe tomorrow morning he will come. And then they would start the day waiting, looking for Krishna in the distance. Is he going to come? And then waiting, they would wait till evening. Again, go back morose. And in this way, they passed their days. And Krishna understood this, of course. And that is why later on, he sent Uddhava. And said, Uddhava, please go and console my dear Brajabasi devotees. Now he chose Uddhava because Uddhava is the best devotee in Mathura and Dwarka. And he chose Uddhava to have his aha moment, that realizing moment. Oh my God. He knows the devotees of Mathura and Dwarka. But when he saw the devotees of Vrindavan, and when he saw the gopis, and especially when he saw Srimati Radharani, he was completely struck with wonder. He could never imagine such levels of love for Krishna. And they were completely in such a state of consciousness where they were exhibiting all sorts of ecstatic symptoms, almost to the point of madness. When Uddhava came there, Srimati Radharani was also talking talking to a bee. And that chapter is called the Brahmar Geet. So there are many songs in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you mention some of the Gitas in Bhagavatam? Yugal Geet, Gopi Geet, Brahmar Geet, Venu Geet, chapter 21, 10th canto, Aila Geet, Rudra Gita, so many songs. But of course, the Uddhava Gita, of course, in the 11th canto. So there are many, many such songs. And so here we see that the gopis were in intense separation, and they didn't know what to do. As time was flowing by, they were just waiting, Krishna will come, Krishna will come. So Uddhava came at this time and he saw Srimati Radharani talking to the bumblebee, Brahmar. In Sanskrit, the bumblebee is called Brahmar. So, and then he was just thinking, he has never seen anything like this. So Krishna chose Uddhava to be the one to broadcast the glories of Vrindavan. What is glorious about Vrindavan? The devotees. See, what makes a temple wonderful? The devotees. Even if the deities are magnificent, deities are always magnificent. Even if the temple structure is magnificent, but what makes the temple special is the quality of the devotees. Their level of Krishna consciousness, their sincerity, their eagerness, their enthusiasm to serve Krishna, their preaching spirit, their missionary zeal, their strong emphasis on sadhana, their loving and trusting relationships amongst each other, free from envy and jealousy and negative qualities, their level of cooperation, etc. So this is what makes a community or a temple glorious. So similarly, Vrindavan, the Dham itself is of course Krishna's abode, so it's anyway all glorious. But what really makes Vrindavan glorious is the quality of the devotion of its residents. So Krishna wanted the world to know about the glory of the Brajabasis and of Vrindavan. And he had to choose the best instrument for this purpose. And that would be Uddhava, the most intelligent Mathuravasi, Dwarkavasi. Very scholarly, very intelligent, disciple of Brihaspati, the sage of the demigods, the guru of the demigods. So Uddhava came there and he saw this condition. And then what did Uddhava pray? He saw and said, my God, I thought we were good devotees, but when I look at these devotees, oh, no comparison. So he prayed that let me become a blade of grass or a clump of grass in Vrindavan, so that when these gopis walk around here and there, and by the movement of their lotus feet, some dust will come and fall on my head, and then my life will become successful. Uddhava did not feel that he was qualified enough to ask for the next birth as a gopi or as a cowherd boy. He felt that's too high for me. Uddhava is also an eternal associate of Krishna, remember. He is not an ordinary conditioned soul. Krishna considered him as a counselor, as a friend. He looked exactly like Krishna. When Uddhava came into Vrindavan, the gopis were confused. They thought, oh, this is Krishna here. Then when they came closer, they realized it's not Krishna. So Uddhav then understood. So because Krishna came to Mathura, that is why the glories of the residents of Vrindavan there was a right opportunity to now, in course of time, broadcast their glories through Uddhava. So the Brajabasis could never recover from this. They were waiting. Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj. Of course, Nanda Maharaj had gone along with Krishna, along with the older cowherd men in their ox carts. And they were to come back after a couple of days. So anyway, so they moved on like this. And Akrura was driving the chariot. And then they came to the Yamuna, the bank of the Yamuna. It's a place called Akrura Ghat. For those of you who have been to Vrindavan, how many have been to Akrura Ghat? Few devotees. Akrura Ghat is at the border of Vrindavan and Mathura. There is a transcendental, invisible borderline that demarcates Vrindavan and Mathura. Now, what is the difference between Vrindavan and Mathura? Can anyone say? What is the difference? Yes. Sorry? The mood of the devotees, yes. Is time still standing still or? Yes? I think it doesn't want to go for, wants to hear about Krishna and Vrindavan. Because the gopis felt like that, they felt that one trutir yugayatam, 1 second, so it's just slowing down.
It's
11:30, okay. Yukta Vaira, we can use it as a book rest, so no problem. So of course the gopis were crying and they were not allowing them to go. Akrura anyway performed his morning rituals, his worship, and then he moved on. And on the other hand, as he was going on there, you see some nice pictures. So just meditate on these pictures. Can you show some of those pictures now? So just hold it for a few seconds so you can try to picture the condition of the Brajabasis and especially the gopis as Krishna was leaving. Okay. Yes, next. Okay, here's another picturization of the same thing. There's Nanda Maharaj on the left, you can see. There's Akrura on the right. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. And on the right, holding the reins, is Akrura. And there's Krishna. So can you all picture this in your mind? This is what happened. Okay, next. The cows are also there. Did you notice? What is the speciality of Vrindavan? That everyone loves Krishna more than their very selves. So the cows were also extremely attached to Krishna. We'll talk about it when we go to the Goshala. Yes? But you see, the cows are also lamenting. The cows also don't want. They've gone on a strike. They don't want Krishna to leave. Next picture. Okay, another picture of Krishna and Balaram. And the gopis, at some point they probably intercepted them. Akrura is not popular at all. But Akrura understands that this is his mission and he understands this is what Krishna wants. It is time for Krishna to move from Vrindavan to Mathura. Time brings about change and change brings about so many problems. For those of you who have children, when they start growing up, time of change, then they start behaving differently and we start getting anxious. They're no longer under your control. Now they become independent. Yes, time. That is how time acts in this world. Circumstances change. Okay. Do you have the dust pictures? Is it done? Oh, that's some devotees rolling in the dust? No, some scenery of Vrindavan, do you have there? No, okay. Okay, that's the Yamuna and the banks of the Yamuna. You know, in this day when so many banks are collapsing and failing, This is one bank you can rely on. That will give you real investment. Invest in this bank. This bank, you'll get your real wealth. All those rupees and pounds and dollars and shilling pence banks, don't bank on them. The banks of the Yamuna are far more auspicious and a better shelter. Okay. All right, fine. Thank you. So Shukadev Goswami is narrating a few of the incidents that happened as the gopis were following Krishna. He says, with his glances, Krishna somewhat pacified the gopis, and they also followed behind him for some time. Then, hoping he would give them some instruction, they stood still. As he departed, and he saw how the gopis were lamenting, he consoled them by sending a messenger with this loving promise. Ayasye, ayasye. Ayasye means I will return. Ayasye, ayasye. That is the message. And then, as Krishna's chariot started moving, they stood as motionless as figures in a painting. They remained there for as long as the flag atop the chariot was visible, and even until then they could no longer see the dust raised by the chariot wheels. Then the gopis returned, without hope that Govinda would ever return to them. Full of sorrow, they began to spend their days and nights chanting about the pastimes of Krishna. The Supreme Lord Krishna, traveling as swiftly as the wind in that chariot with Lord Balaram and Akrura, arrived at the river Kalindi, which destroys all sins. Which is the river Kalindi? Why is the Yamuna called Kalindi? The daughter of Kalinda. Who is Kalinda? Mountain. It's a mountain. Yamuna flows from the Kalinda mountain. So from Kalinda comes Kalindi. So another name for Yamuna is Kalinda. So how many of you have had a dip in the Yamuna? Of course nowadays, okay, nice. Nowadays, of course, it's a tragedy that they have been for many years dumping the sewage and the industrial effluents from Delhi and other places into the Yamuna. So the only time you actually get real Yamuna water now is in the rainy season, when they allow the water to flow, because otherwise they divert the Yamuna water for all sorts of other purposes into various states as she flows down. So that is one of the major tragedies of India now. Ganga, Yamuna, so dirty, filthy. People throw all sorts of rubbish and garbage there. The sewage is left into that. Industries let go their effluents into the rivers, these holy rivers. So anyway, Yamuna is very, very important for us. The Mahabharata also says that all sins are destroyed by drinking water from the Yamuna. Yamuna is very dear to Krishna. When Krishna told Srimati Radharani in Goloka Vrindavan that I am going down to the material world, and so come down with me, she said, I'll come down only if there is Govardhan and Yamuna. And Krishna says they have already advented. So then Radharani said, okay, then I'll come. So without Govardhan and Yamuna, there is no question of Brajabhumi. So it's a very, very auspicious place, very dear to Krishna. She has not only witnessed many, many pastimes on her banks, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, yes? That Krishna is a Vanachari, wanders in the groves of Vrindavan on the banks of the Yamuna river. Not only has she witnessed the Lord and His pastimes every single day for the duration of Krishna's Leela there, but Krishna even sported in her waters so many times. So much so that Ganga started thinking, just see, Yamuna is so fortunate. Krishna has performed pastimes in her waters but he hasn't done so in my waters like this. So Krishna understood her agony and he said, I will fulfill your desire too. And he did that when he appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he played in her waters in Navadvip. And then Ganga was also completely satisfied. Do you know whose daughter Yamuna is? Daughter of Yamaraj? No. Sister of Yamaraj. She is the sister of Yamaraj. Yeah, daughter Kalinda, because she flows from there, the river. Her water flows from Kalinda river, but actually she is the daughter of sun god. Yeah, you're hesitating. Yes. You're right. You'd get a gift for that. You wanted to say Surya. Yes? So she is the daughter of Surya, the sun god. And Yamaraj and Yamuna are siblings, the two children of Surya. He has many other children, but these two. But have you ever considered what a unique brother-sister combination they are? Yamaraj and Yamuna? What is unique about them?
One takes away the life.
Yeah?
Like the Yamuna gives the she's life-saving.
Life-saving, okay. One takes away life, the other gives eternal life. Right? Their services, both are pure devotees of Krishna. Both are doing their services, both are exactly opposite. Yamaraj is meant to take away your life and to punish you, and his job is to keep you, his job description is to keep you bound in the cycle of birth and death. And Yamuna's job description is to liberate you from the cycle of birth and death. And still brother and sister have a very nice relationship. No quarrel. Even though they're doing exactly opposite things. Soon after Diwali, there is a festival. Yeah, Bhratri Dvitiya. That is, it's this time when brothers and sisters meet. And the brothers offer gifts to the sisters, and the sisters also prepare a nice feast for the brother, and all that happens. So on this day, why is this day celebrated? Because Yamaraj went to see his sister. And she looked after him very nicely. And so she served him so nicely that he said, I'm so happy you served me so nicely. What benediction do you want? She said, whoever observes, any sister that, serves her brother on this day, then she will get my mercy, she will be liberated, or some such story from the Puranas. So from that day on, then this thing is celebrated. But people forget the origin of the festival, and they just come because, okay, we'll get some nice meal and so on. So Yamuna is an extraordinary river. Any of you have been to Yamunotri? The origin of the point of, like Gangotri for Ganga, Yamunotri for Yamuna. Have you been? So, there are cliffs and sheer cliffs, a little slip of the bus and you'll go down into the Yamuna. But it's risky not just for that reason. There's another risk. Do you know what that risk is? If you go there, that you'll never want to come back. It is so beautiful, you will say, I'll just be here with Yamuna. And it's bitterly cold in the winter. There's nobody there. Nobody, except that village. There's one or two villages nearby, and they come and serve the temple, serve the deity of Yamuna in the temple, and they just live there, nobody else. And one of our devotees went and talked to them, what do you people do in the winter? How do you survive here? Because all the roads are blocked. Even if there's a medical emergency, you can't go anywhere. They have such sublime faith. They said, Yamuna Maiya will look after us. They don't even have toilets in the house. So they asked him, how do you manage? He said, we go out in the snow, in this ice, and then they say we carry water with us, and then by the time it reach somewhere, it's become ice. So they live in that condition, they don't want to leave. They're willing to undergo the hardship because they have so much faith in Mother Yamuna, they can't leave Yamuna. Do we have Yamunashtakam here? No, right? It'll be too much maybe. Anyway, so they come to the bank of the Yamuna, and the river's sweet water was more effulgent than brilliant jewels. After Lord Krishna had touched it for purification, he drank some from his hand. Then he had the chariot move near a grove of trees and climbed back on along with Balaram. Akrura asked the two lords to take their rest on the chariot. So once Krishna and Balaram had descended from the chariot, they went to Yamuna, they took some fresh water, refreshed themselves, and then they came back onto the chariot. Now Akrura got down and he took his permission to go into the Yamuna, not only to drink the water, but also to perform some worship and chant some mantras and prayers, because that's what you're supposed to do when you go to a holy place. So when he had immersed himself in the water and he was chanting his mantras from the Vedas, suddenly he saw Krishna and Balaram in front of him. But they weren't like Krishna and Balaram who had come out of Vrindavana. So what did he see? And he was puzzled. He said, how come the two sons of Vasudeva are here? I'm sure I left them behind in the chariot. They were sitting in the chariot. How come they are here in front of me? So he was thinking, is it an illusion? What am I seeing here? Are my eyes all right? He was rubbing his eyes. What am I seeing here? And then Akrura saw Anantashesh, the lord of the serpents. Anantashesh was receiving praises from the residents of the higher planets like the Siddhas, Charanas, etc., Gandharvas. And all of them had their heads bowed to Anantashesh. And then he had hundreds of thousands of heads and hoods and helmets. He had a blue complexion. Anantashesh, on top of Anantashesh was the Lord with the blue complexion. Anantashesh was white. And his blue garment, Anantashesh was white, but he had some blue garments. And he was as white as the filaments of a lotus stem. And they made him appear like the white Kailash mountain with all its peaks. And then he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead lying on top of Anantashesha. His complexion was like that of a dark blue rain cloud. It's a metaphor, it's an analogy, the closest that you can get to understand Krishna's complexion. Although no material thing is a perfect analogy for transcendental subjects, but in order to give us some understanding of it, this analogy is very commonly used, like a dark blue rain cloud. He wore yellow garments, he had 4 arms, and he had reddish lotus petal eyes. So he was now seeing the 4-armed form of Vishnu. So Krishna had become Vishnu and Balaram had become Anantashesh. And the Lord was smiling and glancing. And the Lord's form has been described at great length by Shukadev Goswami. Every part of his body and his clothing and his ornaments have all been described here in details. And Shukadev Goswami says that Akrura was witnessing all the devotees from the higher planets and from the Vaikuntha world were there worshipping the Lord. And all his potencies were present there, ever ready at his beck and call to serve him. And as Akrura beheld all this, he became very pleased and enthused with great devotion. His intense ecstasy caused his bodily hairs to stand on end, and they drenched his entire body as his tears flowed from his eyes. Somehow managing to steady himself, Akrura bowed his head to the ground. and he joined his palms, and then, in a voice choked with emotion, very slowly he began to pray with great attention. So Krishna and Balaram were in the chariot, but the same Krishna and Balaram had now appeared before him in the form of Vishnu and Anantashesh. So having seen that, now he started offering prayers. Now, a while ago I asked you a question. What exactly is the difference between Vrindavan and Mathura? So what is the difference? The mood. Okay, yes. Something more? Yes?
Shri Krishna chose Sridham Vrindavan for his childhood pastime and Mathura Dham for his adulthood pastime. Like that.
Yes, that is true. Yes.
In Vrindavan, everybody loved Krishna more than their own child, but that was not the case in Mathura.
In Vrindavan, everyone loves Krishna more than their own child, but that's not the case in Mathura. Yes, you're right. More or less all of you are getting to the point, yes?
In Vrindavan it's Madhurya, and in Dwarka it's Aishwarya.
Okay, that's correct. That's very close. That's more or less what I wanted to say. Excellent. In Vrindavan, the predominant mood is Madhurya. What does the word Madhurya mean? Sweetness. And in Mathura, it is Aishwarya. Aishwarya means opulence, the mood of opulence. So, Vrindavan also has a lot of opulence, even more than Mathura, more than Dwarka, more than Vaikuntha. But that opulence is eclipsed by the sweetness. The sweetness is so huge, it is so intense that it covers over the opulence of Vrindavan. So the predominant quality of Vrindavan is that the love between Krishna and the devotees and amongst the devotees is full of transcendental sweetness. Why is the sweetness there? What do you mean when you say it is Madhurya? Why is it Madhurya? What makes it Madhura or sweet? Yes.
The devotees in Vrindavan don't care that Krishna is God.
Yes.
Their love is so intense that this makes them perfect.
Yes, very nice. It is sweet because the residents of Vrindavan don't care that Krishna is God. Sometimes they don't know, sometimes they know that he is God. But even when they know that he is God, they don't care. You know, normally people are very conscious if they are with a big person. But when the love is so intense, then you go beyond that. For example, the child of a king will not care that he is a king. He'll still climb on his shoulders and pull his hair and so on. So because that intimacy is so great that it goes beyond the actual position of that person. So therefore Krishna does not relish this mood in which he is worshipped as God as much as he does when the residents of Vrindavan worship him with so much intimacy and freedom and they take liberties with him. Because it indicates extreme affection. So that degree of affection and that quality of affection is not present in Mathura, Dwarka, Vaikuntha. There is awareness and consciousness of the godhood of Krishna, and that acts as some kind of a restraint, some kind of a restriction on the complete expression of their love for Krishna. Whereas in Vrindavan there is no such barrier. So this is the difference between Vrindavan and Mathura. So in Vrindavan, Krishna is in his original two-armed form, Shyamasundar, Govinda, playing the flute, herding the cows, the darling of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. In Mathura, he is a prince, going with all his royal paraphernalia on a nice big chariot, and he's in a big palace and all of that. But here, he's a cowherd boy. So this is the difference. So when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, he accepts his Vasudev feature. The Vasudev feature has a little more awe and reverence associated with it. So there he has a 4-armed form. Although in Mathura and Dwarka, he manifests a 2-armed form. But sometimes he displays his 4-armed form also. But Vrindavan is just the 2-armed form. So this point, Akrura Ghat, is the place where the borderline between Mathura and Vrindavan exists. And this is where Krishna now transformed into, or he expanded his Vasudev feature, his 4-armed form. And going forward now, crossing the Yamuna, and then they'd go on the other side, then they would come to the place of opulence. Now no longer Krishna the cowherd boy. Now he is the prince. A little royal situation there for him. So this is a significant point here. So Akrura Ghat, the point at which this happened, where Krishna and Balaram transformed into Vishnu and Ananta Shesha, where Akrura offered prayers, that is significant also for another reason. Does anyone know what else happened at this spot? Those of you who have been to Vrindavan. Akrura Ghat is also the place where one time, previous to this episode, Krishna called all the Brajabasis there. And he showed them Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world. You see, what had happened was that, I think lunch is postponed, I'm told. So we have a little time, yes? Okay. So one time when Nanda Maharaj, on the night of Ekadashi, went to the Yamuna to take a bath, he was too early. And taking a bath too early in the Yamuna or in the river actually is not right. So then the servants of Yamaraj, they arrested Nanda Maharaj, not knowing who he was, and they pulled him down through the waters into Varuna's kingdom, Varuna Loka. Varuna is a demigod in charge of water. And in the morning, then the Brajabasis didn't see Nanda Maharaj. Mother Yashoda was anxious. Where is Nanda Maharaj? What happened? But Krishna, of course, understood what had happened. So he dived into the Yamuna and he swam all the way to Varuna Loka in a moment. And he reached Varuna Loka. When Varuna saw Krishna coming, he immediately stopped everything and started welcoming Krishna, performed arati for him. He welcomed him with sweet words and other paraphernalia. And he understood that his servants had made a big mistake. And he apologized on behalf of the servants, saying that the faults of the servants have to be accepted by the master. So these foolish servants of mine have arrested your father. So please, I beg your pardon, please forgive me for this great offense. So Nanda Maharaj was watching all this in astonishment. His little boy, who gets afraid when there's thunder clapping and everything, and now he's being worshipped by this great demigod, and the demigod is folding his hands and he's begging forgiveness from him. Nanda Maharaj was struck with wonder, but he was very simple-hearted. So then he released him. The Varuna escorted them back and they came out of the water. And then Nanda Maharaj with bated breath was telling all the Brajabasis, do you know, we went to Varuna Loka and that kingdom, my God, it was so big, it was so majestic. All sorts of opulence there, and the king Varuna, the way he worshipped our Kanhaiya. He did arati for him and he begged forgiveness, he put him on a high seat. So all the Brajabasis were very simple people, not complicated people. So they were all struck with wonder, really? So you went to Varuna Loka and came. Can we also see Varuna Loka? So they were thinking like this, they were talking. And the Krishna was thinking, these poor Brajabasi, my poor devotees, they don't realize they are living in Vrindavan. And nothing in the material world, whether it is Indra Loka, Varuna Loka, any Loka, even Melbourne Loka, nothing compares to Vrindavan. This land that we are staying now is the same as the Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Familiarity breeds contempt. So these people are thinking that, this is just a little village with the forest and Krishna is just our little cowherd boy, our ladla, our beloved boy. So Krishna was thinking, okay, I'll fulfill the desire of my devotees, but I'll show them what they are forgetting. So he took them to this place, which is today called Akrura Ghat, at this point where this pastime happened. And that was called Brahma Radha in those days. And there Krishna manifested to them, every one of them, the entire Vaikuntha world. As they were watching, they could see it like you see in a movie or cinema hall. You can see the entire thing. And then he displayed Goloka Vrindavan. And then they saw their own Vrindavan again. And then they realized, my God, yes indeed, God, correct. They saw this is same. We are in the same Vrindavan as in the spiritual world. There is no difference between this Vrindavan and that Vrindavan. So this is the lesson that Krishna wanted to give to the Brajabasis, to make them realize that the Vrindavan they are living in is exactly identical to the Vrindavan in the spiritual world. So they are not devoid of opulence. Varuna Loka's opulence is insignificant compared to the opulence of Goloka Vrindavan. So then the residents of Vrindavan were very pacified and they were very happy. So this pastime happened here. And after Akrura's Leela, 4,500 years later, that is 500 years ago, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited this point. And he stayed here for a couple of days. Today the Yamuna has moved away almost 1 kilometer or maybe more from that point. In those days Yamuna was flowing right there. Today there's a temple of Krishna, Balaram, Akrura in that place. And so he stayed here, and in the early morning he would go to Vrindavan. He would sit at Vanshivat or at Keshi Ghat. He would chant his rounds. He would wander in the groves there. And then by noon he would come back to Akrura Ghat and then honor his prasadam. And at one time, because he would get so ecstatic, he just jumped into the Yamuna. And his servant Balabhadra Bhattacharya he took great pains to somehow or the other pull him out along with another Rajput, a Kshatriya from Rajasthan who had accompanied them, Krishnadas Rajput. So then Balabhadra Bhattacharya began to confer with this Rajput and he said, look, it's too dangerous. I can't stay here anymore. Any time Mahaprabhu just jump in his ecstatic trance, jumps into the Yamuna, what's going to happen? Fortunately, I saw that and you were there with me, so we were able to rescue him. But if we are not there sometime, we've gone for a minute, somebody jumps in, what's going to happen? And then every day we have all these people pestering my head with invitations for prasadam. And I can't manage it now. So the Rajput said, okay, fine, I understand. So what you do is, you go and suggest to Mahaprabhu that now Magh, the month of Magh is coming very shortly, and there'll be the confluence, the Kumbh Mela will come up very shortly at the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati at Prayag. So it's time for him to go there. So then Balabhadra Bhattacharya and Krishnadas Rajput submitted this petition. And Mahaprabhu agreed. He said, look, I'm so grateful to both of you. You brought me here to Vrindavan. By your mercy, I was able to see Vrindavan, wander in Vrindavan. I'm extremely thankful to you. So wherever you want to take me, I will come with you. So he was ready to go, and soon they left. Another incident that happened here at this point was that There was a rumor in Vrindavan that Krishna had reappeared and that he was dancing on the hoods of Kaliya in the Yamuna river. And many people would come and they would say, have you seen Krishna? Yes, at night I also saw Krishna in the river. So some respectable people from around that area came to Akrura Ghat to see Mahaprabhu one afternoon, and they said, do you know that Krishna has appeared? And Mahaprabhu simply smiled. And then Balabhadra Bhattacharya, his servant, his assistant, after they left, he came and said, I have heard that Krishna has appeared and he's dancing on the hoods of Kaliya and Yamuna. Tonight can I go to take darshan of Krishna? And Mahaprabhu slapped him. You foolish boy. Why will Krishna appear now in this Kali Yuga? Just because some foolish people imagine all sorts of things in a sentimental way, are you also going to start imagining these things? Krishna appeared here, Krishna appeared there. Does it say in the Shastra that Krishna is going to appear like this and dance on Kaliya? So he reprimanded him, and Balabhadra Bhattacharya was feeling very bad that he made such a blunder. And then that, soon after that, the next day perhaps, the same respectable people, they came to meet Mahaprabhu and said, oh, that was a mistake. Actually, there's this fisherman who goes to fish at night, and he has these lamps that he carries with him. And sometimes the boat bobs up and down in the waves of the Yamuna. So people were thinking that they're the jewels in the hoods of Kaliya. They're going up and down, and the fisherman is Krishna dancing on the hoods. So it was a big mistake. And we saw Krishna there. We were thinking like that. So it was a big mistake. But actually, because you are in front of us, now we know that we have actually seen Krishna. So they were right, but for the wrong reason. They were right that they were looking at Krishna now, because they were looking at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the reason was wrong. They thought that Mahaprabhu is Krishna because he's a sannyasi. Because the Mayavadis think that anyone who takes sannyas becomes Narayan. Danda grahana matrena nara narayano bhavet. That when you get the sannyas danda at the time of sannyas initiation, then Nara, human, becomes Narayan. So they greet each other by saying, Om Namo Narayanaya, which is meant for Lord Narayan. But when these Mayavadi sannyasis greet each other, they will greet each other as Om Namo Narayanaya. So therefore they consider, now you're a sannyasi, you're liberated, and you are now Narayan. So our sannyas minister of ISKCON, after I took sannyas, he came, Om Namo Narayana. Because it's just in humor. So then Mahaprabhu closed his ears. Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. You should never call an ordinary soul as the Supreme Lord. It's a great offense. The soul is simply a spark, and the Lord is like the fire. But the fact that they thought he was Krishna was right, because he indeed is Krishna who has manifested in the form of a devotee. But they thought so for a wrong reason. So in any case, these pastimes happened here, then Mahaprabhu left. So at this point, Akrura started praying, and chapter 40 actually consists of his prayers. What we'll do is we'll sing the song. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavana. Shri Govinda Gopi Natha Madana Mohan. Shri Govinda Gopi Natha Madana Mohan. Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Keshi Ghata Vanshi Vata Dvadasha Kanan Jaha Sabha Leela Koilo Shri Nanda Nandana Shri Nanda Jashoda Jaya Jaya Gopagan Shri Damade Jaya Jaya Dhenu Vatsagan Jaya Vrishabhanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Abhiranagari Jaya Jaya Gopishvara Vrindavana Maja Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakha Bhattu Dvijara Jaya Ram Ghata Jaya Rohini Nanda Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Vasi Jata Jan Jaya द्विजपत्नी जय नागकन्यागण भक्ति तेजाहार पाइलो गोविंद चरण श्री रासमंडल जय जय राधा श्याम जय जय रास लीला सर्व मनोरम जय जयोज्ज्वल रस सर्वरस सार परखिया भावे जहाँ ब्रजते प्रचार श्री जानवा पाद पद्म कोरिया स्मरण दीन कृष्ण दास कहे नाम संकीर्तन हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Vrindavana Dham, Jaya Vrindavana Dham, Jaya Vrindavana Dham, Jaya Vrindavana Dham. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hare Krishna. Shri Krishna Prasadam ki jai. 5 minutes more. Any questions? Yes.
How come Mother Yashoda didn't stop Krishna from going to Mathura? Because
How come Mother Yashoda didn't stop Krishna from going to Vrindavan? Well,
Mathura.
going to Mathura.
Because as a mother, she's thinking that Krishna is her small child. So if she hears that Kamsa has these plans,
Because Nanda Maharaj was also under the impression that they're going to come back. You just go there for a while and come back. Because Nanda Maharaj was also going along with Krishna Balaram. They weren't going alone. So the Gopas were going, all of them were going. And they were just going to pay some taxes. There was going to be some festival there. And they would come back. That was Mother Yashoda's thing. Although she was very sad to see him going. And she was apprehensive, certainly. But because her husband had gone and along with her son, so she was feeling maybe she might have also tried to dissuade her husband, but the point is that the king had ordered that you have to bring your tributes to me. So that was something that could not be avoided.
thank you. And the other question being, can you complete the pastime of Mahaprabhu falling in the Yamuna? Like what happened? Like why did, out of ecstasy, why did he fall into the Yamuna and Akrura Ghat?
Because he was remembering the pastimes of Krishna and the Vrajabasis in the Yamuna. He saw the Yamuna and all these remembrances came to him. And he just jumped into the Yamuna. Yes, this is in his ecstatic trance. And then Balabhadra Bhattacharya was there and Rajput. He shouted, "Help, help!" And then the Rajput came running. What happened? They all jumped in the water, picked him up. Of course, he's Mahaprabhu. He can take care of himself. Krishna can take care of himself. But this is a pastime. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
How was Akrura feeling when he was taking Krishna away and all the gopis were stopping? Naturally, it would have been very emotional it was emotional for gopis. What was Akrura's reaction at that stage? Was he also feeling that he's doing some sort of activity which is probably very cruel on gopis?
Good question. He obviously understood. He was taken aback to see the kind of devotion. First it was Uddhava. But now that Uddhava had come back some time earlier, or Uddhava would come later, but before Uddhava, Akrura had that experience this time, looking at the residents of Vrindavan. So he had got a taste of what it was like in Vrindavan. At the same time, he also understood that there was no choice. Kamsa had ordered it and it had to happen. And he realized it is also Krishna's will. Because Krishna now has decided to change gears. He wants to move from Vrindavan to Mathura. The pastimes are of a different nature. So he understood he was actually facilitating the intention of the Lord.
What about Krishna? It seems very cruel that that may not be the right word, but
No, that's very much the right word. The gopis always say that.
So
They say Krishna is the most cruel person in the whole creation.
With that sort of loving relationship, he left them, and then
Yes.
that doesn't sound like loving.
We should all take up the issue. We should all fight for it. I'm with you. We can all go together. Why did you leave Vrindavan? What to do? He's a supreme independent personality of Godhead. You see, in the spiritual world, that's going on eternally anyway. These associates of Krishna who were here in this Vrindavan, they were of two types. One type are those who are his eternal associates, who descended with him from Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world to accompany him in his pastimes here. And joining them were other souls, other living entities, devotees, who had become pure devotees by dint of their austerities and devotional service over many, many lifetimes. And now, before going back to that Goloka Vrindavan, they got a chance to come to this Vrindavan and get trained up a little bit under those eternal associates and remove whatever little atomic traces of material contamination there may have been in their hearts and go back. So the first category are called the Nitya Siddhas, which means they are the eternally perfected souls. And the second category are called Sadhana Siddhas. They are the ones who became perfect by practicing Krishna consciousness in the material world. Right? So, in the spiritual world, anyway, this thing is eternally happening. It's within the material world that this is very heartbreaking. But in the spiritual world, Krishna goes and comes every day. He lives eternally in Vrindavan. But these pastimes happen here for Krishna and his associates to taste the mood of separation. Which is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani when Uddhava saw her at the time of the Brahmara Geet, the song of the bee. That precise mood that Srimati Radharani had at that time was the mood that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Krishna took on and became and came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So therefore that had a purpose to demonstrate that service in separation, which is called Vipralambha Seva, is highest. So through this pastime, Krishna is also demonstrating that And in the process is glorifying the Vipralambha Bhava, the mood of separation of the residents of Vrindavan for Krishna.
Sorry, Maharaj, how does that serve? Like gopis, how were they serving when Krishna went away? So that Vipralambha Bhav must have been hard to, every day they were waking up as you told, waking up and waiting, and evening again going morose. So how does that serve Krishna?
It serves Krishna because in that lamentation there is the most intense ecstasy. It is not like ordinary lamentation of this world. When we lament here in this world, that is ordinary grief. That doesn't give us any joy. But on the platform of pure devotion, the grief of separation gives such an intense ecstasy that is beyond our imagination. It's inconceivable. So even though they were grieving, it was grief, transcendental grief, but in that grief they were feeling an intense ecstasy because they were feeling a closeness to Krishna, perhaps even more than in Krishna's presence.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Thank you.
So Krishna wants to demonstrate through them this principle of service in separation. Okay? Hare Krishna. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai.